Hello, GSF Universe. Alfred Joaquin here with a very, very special guest, head coach of the Valley Christian Warriors women's basketball team and the owner and founder of Top Flight Elite Basketball, Chris McSwain. Coach, why don't you go ahead and talk to us about your background and your years growing up here in San Jose.
Yeah, so grew up in Campbell, California. I was born and raised here. I played football, basketball, and baseball growing up. So I was a three-sport athlete, really big proponent in those things. Ended up going on to play college football, actually, instead of basketball. Baseball, ironically, was my best sport when I was growing up. So, I had a love and affinity for sports, and basketball was really, really my main love, even though I didn't end up playing college basketball. But I started coaching basketball when I was in college. So when we would come home for the spring breaks or summer breaks, I would run the basketball camps at the city of Campbell. And that was really where I kind of learned how to coach and teach and all of those things. And one of my mentors was John Arugio. And John Arugio, when I was 18 years old, I started reffing his leagues and just understanding how the game works, how the game operates. And I think being a former official has made me a better coach because I know the rules first and foremost. And then I also, kind of know like the strategies of the officials and the positioning, and therefore, and so my mentor, John Arugio, kind of sparked me once I graduated to continue. So I did the sports camps for 5 years and the basketball camps for the city of Campbell. Once I finished, I started coaching at my old high school. I was coaching at Delmar High School for 7 seasons, and I was JV head coach and varsity assistant. Went over to Monte Vista and was the assistant coach, varsity, as well as head JV. My former AAU coach, Pat Judge, my AAU coach in high school was Pat Judge. He was at Lee at the time, and he had built a pretty good program at Lee. So he invited me to come coach with him over there as the head JV and then the varsity assistant. I was there for 2 years, and then I had the opportunity to come to Valley Christian. My first time ever coaching girls, which was a great opportunity to coach in the WCAL, and that's the real reason why I wanted to come and coach at Valley Christian amongst one of the top leagues in the nation, and all the best coaches and all the best players were in that league. So I really stepped out by faith, and then it led me into that position. While I was coaching at Delmar, a group of my buddies and I decided to start an organization called Top Flight Elite Basketball. And basically what Top Flight Elite was getting the best accumulation of coaches to teach and mentor, boys and girls, and give them the opportunity to play basketball or baseball or whatever sport that they want, but really do it in a different way. And that way was teaching the game, teaching life lessons through the game of basketball, how respectful you need to be with people around you, people in your circle. And so it was about 4 or 5 of us that decided to start this, and we started to put this puzzle together. And this puzzle lasted, it's been 9 years now, but it started out just a small group of us. And we either grew up together or, new friends of friends. And so it was myself, Nate Anderson, who's the director of Top Flight Baseball, and Stephen Giles, Ryan Cooper, who's now assistant coach at San Jose State for basketball. So all these guys came together for this one common goal, and that was just to create a culture in the South Bay area that basketball and baseball can thrive, and that's really what we wanted to do. So we started doing, I actually started doing individual workouts while I was at Delmar High School. That parlayed into group workouts and group trainings. That now went to, okay, you can coach a team. And so we ended up getting a lot of really good athletes in my first group. Noah Stapes comes to mind, Peter Hewitt, both college basketball. Yeah, exactly. So those were kind of the baseline kids. We had Jace Whitcliffe, Julian Jones, Franchon Warmack. There was AJ Mintz. So we got a collective talent around us, and the majority of those kids are playing, college athletics. And so once we had those kids, it started to foster and say, hey, Top Flight's doing a good job. Let's build more teams. So we started off with one team. One team went to 3 teams. 3 teams went to 12 teams. And then once we had 12 teams, it went to 20 teams. And then it went to 30 teams. And all along that whole situation, we were bringing in quality coaches, people that loved giving back to the community, people that we knew, and really it was a family. And so when we got to 30 teams a few years ago, it was just amazing to see the growth and experience that we had. And it was just all because of a vision that a couple of us had. And then we just kind of ran with it. And we just wanted to do it better than it had been done. One of the Pete Carroll sayings, one of my favorite books by Pete Carroll, and his motto is do it better than it's ever been done. And that's what we tried to do over the last 8-9 years, and we've been successful with that. And then a lot of other things came on board. Our relationship with GetSportsFocus transformed into something that's been terrific, a great partnership. Our Tyler Johnson Elite came on. We were coaching Logan and Gabe, and then when Tyler made it big, he wanted to give back to the community, and we were doing things the right way, and he wanted to partner. And so the Tyler Johnson Elite thing came along, and different partnerships and relationships have come just because of basketball and baseball, but ultimately it's just the people that have been around have made it such a great experience, and the time has flown by, or flew by, whichever one you want to use. But it's just been super, super exciting to bring the passion and energy that we have for athletics to so many kids. I mean, we've touched, over 3,000 kids in our time period, whether that be camps, clinics, our AAU, and it's just amazing what this thing has become. We try to inform parents. So recently we did the college recruiting seminar because when I was growing up, we all thought we were all going to North Carolina and Duke. And me being a 6-foot shooting guard, I couldn't really dribble, but I could shoot pretty well. I wasn't going to go on to Duke, and I didn't have people honest enough to tell me that. And so we want to be very honest with the process now that we've gone through it ourselves, whatever sport we decided to play in college, and then now we've seen it for a number of our players. What's worked, what hasn't worked, what are some of the fallacies and misnomers about being recruited, and am I doing enough to make sure that I'm putting my son or daughter in a position that they can be recruited, and all of that. So that's a little background about us and how we kind of started, but it basically started from a group of guys in a living room with a paper plate that we use normally for nachos, and just kind of mapped this whole thing out. And then that's where we're at now, and we're extremely blessed. We moved on to Sacramento.
I saw that, yes.
And we've got Top Flight Sacramento, and Julie Allender is one of the best in the business, and we're so lucky to have her on our staff and everybody really that has helped out.
Now, at what age did you realize that this is the career path that you want to go into?
Yeah, so it's funny, I used to tell my mom when I was in high school, I knew what I wanted to do. I wanted to have a sports academy, and I knew that's exactly what I wanted. And now how was that going to be a reality was really the things that I had to learn. And I learned from a lot of people. I learned from my previous coaches. Raymond Townsend comes to mind. Raymond Townsend was doing what we do with the RT basketball leagues, but he was doing it in the 90s. And I got real close with him after high school, and kept in contact. And I took things that he did well, and tried to use in our organization. My other coaches, Brad Quinnett, a great tactician, James Duncan, who's an assistant at St. Francis, Eric Ostrowski, who is a former head coach, one of my previous assistant coaches, and I coached under him for a number of years. He's now the AD at Willow Glen. So, and John Arugio, the guy who basically built the platform to what we do now. How do you run organized events? Are you super detailed in your approach with what you're doing? That was really, those are the guys that I took things from, and I took a little bit of every one and then sprinkled a little bit of my personality with it, and then that's kind of how things were built. And that's where my mentality comes from. My older brother, he's not brother by blood, but he's my older brother, Carnell Wiley.
I think I met him.
Yeah, you have met him. He's coached at every single level. He coached at high school. He's coached in the pros, in the NBA D League. Now it's called the G League. He's coached at every level, semi-pro. So I learned so much from those guys and individuals that really made my transition easier. And back to the original story, I told my mom this is what we wanted to do when I was young, and cultivating all those relationships, all those people that I met, and my travels to be successful are basically because I've drawn on other people for their expertise and tried to hone in on something that really works for me and our organization. And yeah.
Looking back, I met you about 5 years ago, I think, 4 years. And I remember back then I visited your office. You were doing something else. So I want you to talk to us about what it took to get things going.
My undergraduate degree is in psychology, and I originally wanted to be a child psychologist and work with kids and do all of that. That was my first job out of college, and that was like 05, 06. And I was still coaching. I was coaching at Del Mar at the time, and I ended up going a different career route, and I was going into sales. And so I was an employee benefits consultant or employee benefits broker. We did group health insurance for companies, and I was doing that while starting this and also getting my master's degree in education, because I knew I didn't want to be in sales for a long period of time if I can stand it. And so basically how it worked out was I was a behavior specialist for about 6 months. I didn't really like that. My buddy was working at this insurance company. He said, hey, come over and work, meet our CEO. And by the way, my CEO, Ron Felice, Felice Insurance, was one of the biggest mentors that I've ever had, because this guy was so relentless in his approach to everything, and he wanted to dominate and be the best. And he wasn't a complete, he wasn't a bad guy doing it. He was a nice guy doing it the right way, and that's why he won. Like, I was so impressed when I met him for the first time. And, I think I was 23 or 24 at the time. I was getting ready to go into his office, and I put his shirt and tie on and get this resume. And he didn't even look at the resume. He didn't care about the resume. He wanted to get to know me for who I was. And so I was just so impressed. Not only was he the greatest guy, but they would give free coffee and Gatorades and food for their employees. So I was all in on that. And so I worked my way up. I started out telemarketing in the telemarketing and marketing department, or emailing people, trying to get opportunities to earn their business. While I was doing that, I learned how to be a broker. I learned how to do spreadsheets. I learned how to go out and meet people that were much older than me, but able to save them money, give them a picture on how to better their business. And so I did that for 9 years, and I loved my time there. I didn't like exactly what I was doing, but I liked the company that I was working for. So during that whole time, I was doing top flight. So my hours were, basically 9 to 5 at the insurance company. I would go practice from 5:30 to 7:30, and then I would be doing top flight stuff from 7:30 until I went to bed. At that time, I was going to bed around midnight. Then wake up and do it again. Also trying to maintain my fitness and working out and all this. So I was extremely busy, basically from like '06 to '10, grinding. And then I was also doing my online master's courses. So like literally I probably slept 4 or 5 hours a night. And for those 4 or 5 years strong, it was like grind season. But I saw Ron Felice do that, and he's actually probably my biggest mentor, because he just got it done. And his motto was A or F. You either get it done or you don't. There's no in between. And I use that till this day. So that was kind of like the process. It wasn't easy starting this whole thing. How do you get a business license? How do you get a nonprofit? How do you do this? Like, I taught myself how to do all of that stuff. And then, it was just about action. Like Steve Jobs always said, think wide, execute straight. And that was one of Ron's biggest things, was think wide and execute straight. If you got a target, you got to hit that target. Okay, don't be all over the place. Fine tune what you want to do. And that's why, we started like progressively. We're going to make sure we get it right, and then we can go on to the next thing. And so we didn't bring baseball on until a few years after that. Like, I had the blueprint, and I was like, Nate, here we go. I'm ready. Yeah. Or he was ready at that time, and then it was just like a seamless process. So there was like to your point, there was a lot of work that goes into it. Just like any athlete, there's going to be so much. You're not going to see the fruits of your labor right away. Like, if you're lifting weights, you might not get strong until a year or two later, but once you do, you got it, and now there's really no turning back.
I do have to ask this, Coach. We're in an age where social media is now a huge part of our lives. You use it, we use it, the kids use it, and I just want to get your take on social media and the goods and the bads.
I would say just use it to your benefit. There's so much out there, and like you can see it now. Like, I come in the team room for our girls, or even at the top flight practices, whatever. Kids are always on their social media. Like, literally, it's like on their phone. They'll come into the team room and be on the Apple TV just scrolling through Instagram. And then the streaks on the social media are crazy as far as the Snapchat. Like, there's a 1,000-day streak where you send a picture to somebody. It's crazy. But use it to your benefit, and not to your detriment. Because even me, like, I got to unplug sometimes, because if I ain't got my phone, or you just feel naked. And so I would say just understand the content that you're putting out there. Make sure it's positive content. Don't put negative things out there. And you're gonna just honestly understand this. You're gonna be judged on whatever it is that you put out there, whether that be with your peers, whether that be people that don't really care for you, or whether that be people you don't know, whether that be family, or whether that be possible coaches. They're looking at all that content. One of my good friends, Adam Tefralis, he's our human performance director, and we've become great friends over the last 5 years. He does the Elite 11. And so when they go out to the Elite 11, they bring in a social media expert, and they got everybody's Instagram, they got everybody's Twitter, they got everybody's Facebook. And what they do is put together a package. And a lot of these guys are going to be, top level prospects in college. Many of them are in the NFL. So they give them this packet, and this packet says, this is who you are based on your social media. So if you like a picture from somebody that was, dancing inappropriately or whatever, that's what this this company is saying it says about you. So everything that you like, everything that you are following is basically a product of who you are. If you were following, gossip sites like TMZ or World Star Hip Hop or whatever, that's saying something about you. If you're following Instagram models, whether they be male or female, that's saying something about you. If you're only following your friends, or you're only following or you're only following a certain group, that says something about who you are. So I would say use it to your benefit, not to your detriment, and just understand that everything that you put on there is going to be judged. Like, I get on my wife sometimes about like all the stuff that she's posting, and everybody's looking at that. And I'm not a public figure like LeBron James or anything like that. I don't face criticism like he does, but everything that she does post is a reflection on me. So she is more aware of like what she's posting. And I don't like my personal stuff. I don't post too much about the top flight stuff. It's usually only centered around basketball or baseball or stuff that we're organizing. But for me personally, I don't like to put a lot of stuff out there. I'm very private as far as like what I want out there, because some people can, like I said, they're gonna be judging you, and they're gonna judge you one way or the other. So I'd rather not put anything out there unless it's just positive content that is used to benefit me and not be a detriment to me. So I would say that for kids, a long answer, but I think it's very important for everybody to understand that.
Yeah, especially for student athletes. And speaking of positive content, you introduced me to a gentleman by the name of David Nurse not too long ago.
Yeah.
And ever since I met the guy, I saw him conduct a camp here at Valley Christian with Top Flight, and really cool guy, and I started following his stuff, and he's just a really positive guy.
Yeah.
How did you get to know him? How did that whole thing come about?
All these things have come based on relationships, and so I met David through, so one of our Top Flight coaches said, hey, you got to meet these two guys. One was Billy Bodak and he used to be with the Warriors in their office, and then the other was David Nurse. So we actually came right here up to Valley Christian. We sat in this team room, and David and I just hit it off, and we became friends a couple years back, and then we just fostered this relationship. He is a spiritual guy, a terrific guy, and just does things the right way. Just one of those people that you want to be around. He's an energy giver. It's really not about him, and so we just hit it off. We stayed in contact. He was coming off being the shooting coach for the Brooklyn Nets, and we said, hey, I don't know what this is, but let's figure it out. So we just started partnering. He actually sends me a daily devotion every single day. Nice. There's a bunch of NBA players on the list and coaches, and I get an email from him every morning. And it's just a daily devotion reminding me like what this whole purpose is about, because it's not, what I'm doing isn't for me at all. It's really to hopefully glorify God and give people opportunities that maybe they didn't have, or hopefully open people's minds that maybe they didn't look at it this way. So David's really helped me in that respect. And again, he's a great follow. He has his own podcast. It's called The Game of Life, that he does a really good job with. And just we fostered a really good friendship in a short period of time. And that's really kind of how the whole David Nurse thing came about.
That's awesome. And I'm sure we'll probably see him more with
No
Top
doubt.
Flight camps happening. We recently did the Top Flight recruiting seminar, and I wanted to have you talk a little bit about some of the things that were talked about there. Maybe not the whole entire thing, but what were some of the questions that really stood out when it comes to recruiting as far as basketball in high school?
Yeah, so we had a bunch of guest speakers. Dave Wojcik, formerly of San Jose State, and his son has played in our program. Jake Wojcik, who's a Division I basketball player. He's playing at Bellarmine right now. He's a senior. And just understanding the whole dynamics of how it all plays out, because like we said earlier, we've seen this over a number of years. We've seen it whether it be with ourselves individually during the recruiting process. People don't really know how it all works. And so the reason why we wanted to do that was to give parents the opportunity to say, look, this is what we need to know, and we don't know what we don't know. And so when parents are asking these questions to myself or Dave or David Nurse or Zane from Advocates for Athletes, it's just really informing them on the process. Most people think they're better than what they are. You know, that's just human nature. And we're not trying to diminish anybody's dreams, but we want to make sure that they're reality.
Yeah.
In that whole process, we showed like the entire United States and where all the colleges are located, and 75% of the colleges are located in the Midwest or East Coast. Well, parents didn't know that, and we showed them, here's the map. Look at this. This is why it's so difficult for people in California to go Division I in basketball or whatever sport you're playing, but there's more opportunities on the East Coast. And California is the biggest populated state and with the least amount of opportunities. So that's what we wanted to get across, more of a Q&A or some sort of TED Talk where it's like, okay, we break down the fundamentals of it, give people the knowledge that they need, and then hopefully they can utilize that to be successful for themselves and, more importantly, their children.
One of the questions that I remember was there was a parent that asked about junior high kids, like her son or her daughter was going to be a high schooler, and they wanted to know if they should go the private school route or the public school.
Yeah, I think it's just really going to depend on fit, and we talked about that a lot during the seminar. And like, there's really no right answer because there's kids that go play college at the public school. There's kids that go play college at the private school, and I've been in both areas. I've seen it work both ways. So it's really going to be about the fit. First and foremost, where is your kid going to be happiest, regardless of this school, that school? Where are they going to be happy? Where are they going to thrive academically? And that's really the first two things that you should consider when considering different high schools to attend. The next thing is, if you are looking to play, do you like the style of play that the school plays? Okay, will that style of play fit well with you? How long has the coach been there? What is the coach like? You're going to be spending 4 years with that program and that staff. You want to make sure you're getting into the right fit for you. And I tell kids all the time, go check out the games. Go check out the coaching styles, the different philosophies. Ask questions. Ask people who've been in the program. Ask people who are outside the program. What are your thoughts on this coach or this program or
basically
whatever?
Do the research.
Do your research. You know, and then don't come to Valley Christian just because you think we're good at basketball. Go there because you want to go there, or Bellarmine or Midi or St. Francis, you name it, or a public school. Go to where you're gonna thrive the best, where you're gonna have the best opportunity to learn and get better, and it'll all end up working out for yourself regardless, because that's gonna be the best fit situation for you. And if you choose a situation that's not, you may not end up liking your experience, you may end up transferring or what have you, but if you do your research up front, all of this stuff should be a lot easier when you're making that high school transition. And no different from when you're making a college transition. Like, you're asking all those questions to coaches, to people around the program, and that's something you should probably do at the high school level too.
Yeah, I think sometimes they forget about the college part. Like, you are gonna go to school too,
right?
Not just play basketball. Exactly. So that was really informative, and we'll have snippets of that presentation by Coach Dave Wojcik.
Yep.
Another thing, this has been a really informative session. Inspiring as well. But who in your life really inspired you growing up, and like, maybe some individuals who you want to thank before we wrap this up?
Yeah, first and foremost, my mother was a big inspiration to me. She's handicapped, but you wouldn't know it. She was stricken with a disease called polio, and in the early 50s, this was very prevalent. Now they have vaccines and stuff like that, so you don't get the disease. And so she had, her leg is about probably the size of my wrist, okay? And she was always told that she was never going to walk when she was a child because she was stricken with this disease. She had to wear braces or crutches or wheelchair, what have you. She was teased a lot when she was growing up because she had this disease. And that made her strong. And so she came home one day, told my grandmother, I don't want to wear these crutches or these braces anymore. So she decided she wasn't going to, and she started walking. She walked. She's walked ever since. Now she's getting older, so she has an extreme limp. She has to have a cane and stuff like that. But she made no excuses for whatever it is that she was going to do. So my mom is my biggest inspiration, no doubt. 100% by far. And
she can also sing. She
can also sing. She will do our national anthem and things like that on special events. And then what she gave me was extreme confidence in myself. And no matter what I did, she had confidence in me. She gave me confidence. So like I could walk in any room and be confident wherever I'm at because that's just who I was born. That's not who I was born to be, but who I was taught to be. Like you always have confidence in no matter what situation, whether you're up against a tough opponent or if you're going into a meeting. Like I was confident, and then the confidence is because I will prepare myself to be confident. Like as a coach, I study my craft. Like I will watch game film tirelessly so I can get an edge, so I can hopefully give my players an edge. When it comes to business, I'm constantly trying to enrich my mind with people who are doing it well. The Steve Jobs book is one of my favorite books because it just talks about the inspiration, or he gives you inspiration on how to do things. And like you might fail, but he never lacked confidence in his abilities, and he had a vision and he wanted to accomplish it. So my mom gave that to me, and in turn, I've been seeking out knowledge from others. Like I said, there was a lot of coaches that did a great job growing up. That's the reason why I wanted to coach. It's because I took all the good things that they were doing, and hopefully I tried to mold them into something that works for me. It's just Raymond Townsend, Brad Quinnett, John Arugio, Eric Ostrowski, Cornell Wiley. All those people were just great inspirations. The group that I have around me, Top Flight wouldn't be anywhere if it wasn't for Jamon Osby, who's coached at Bellarmine, Alex Red, who coaches at Bellarmine, Stephen Giles, who's been my right-hand man from day one. We grew up together. I've known him for 20 years. Ryan Cooper, my dog, we used to compete he was a freshman when I was a senior. We used to compete, play one-on-one for hours. When we got to college, we were playing sports, weightlifting in the summers, grinding. Nate Anderson, my brother-in-law, and he was my brother before he was my brother-in-law. We were doing the sports camps together, and he's doing Top Flight baseball and coaching at Los Gatos. So like all these people around really make me better. Like I've surrounded myself with people that are better than me, and that's why Top Flight is successful. That's why I'm successful. I would be remiss if I didn't talk about my wife. My wife has seen Top Flight from the ground zero. She was there when I was grinding. She was there when we first started, like when we first got our nonprofit and our business license and all this. When we met in 2010, she saw this whole process, and now, she's seen it come to fruition. She's been a big supporter of mine. Her family has been a big supporter of mine, the whole Top Flight vision. So you gotta have a great support system if you're gonna be successful in life, no matter what it is. The support system is key. The support system I have here at Valley Christian, Eric Scherenberg, Ryan Rulini, Jolene Fugate, who used to be here and now is the commissioner of the WCAL. like they believed in you and they allow you to thrive, and that's really it. So those are the people that have been influential. There's probably a bunch that I've missed out on. So if you're watching this or listening to this, you're not forgotten. You were very important. All the coaches that I've learned from, it's just an amazing experience, and it's just at the end of the day, it's really all about people. Like all this other stuff that you're doing, and like it's about engaging people. And what I try to provide is try to give more of me, and in return, so much has come back to me. Like that's what I learned. Like give more out, and so much more will come back to you. And I think the last thing to touch on this point, like when I was in sales, Ron Felice gave everything to that company, and that's why he's so successful. He had a $30 million agency. He gave everything to everybody else, and in return, it helped out. And so, if there's anything that I hope people can learn from me, is give more to other people. Be the best teammate. Be the best friend. Give and pour into other people, and watch what happens.
That's awesome. Thank you, Coach.
Thank you.